Hi, let's review adding and subtracting mixed numbers. The LEQ for this lesson is, how can I add and subtract mixed numbers? And our objective is, I can add and subtract mixed numbers using the LCM. Let's look at problem number 1. Problem number 1 is an addition problem. 1 plus 1 and 3/4. Let's see what we need to do first. First, add our whole numbers. Our whole numbers are both of those ones. So when you add 1 and 1, you're going to get 2. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to bring down the fraction right next to that whole number that you just added. So you have that 2, and now you're going to bring down that 3/4, and your final answer is going to be 2 and 3/4. Easy peasy. This next problem is a subtraction problem. 3 minus 1 and 2/3. Let's see what we need to do first. First, let's change the whole number to a mixed number. So 3 is our whole number, so we're going to try to make it look like a mixed number, which is a whole number with a fraction to its side. So what we'll do is we will regroup the 3 and we'll take it down to a 2. So now that the 2 is there, we need to represent that whole number 3 with the 2 and a fraction next to it. So we're going to look at the denominator in the next problem, which is 1 and 2/3, the denominator is 3, and we're going to make a whole number using 3. And the way you make a whole number with that 3 is you're going to put 3 over 3. So 2 and 3/3 is actually an equivalent fraction to 3 wholes. So 2 and 3/3 actually represents 3. It's kind of like if you changed a dollar and you had 4 quarters, they'd still be the same amount of money, but they look different. And that's what this is. 2 and 3/3 actually represents 3. Go ahead and move down that 1 and 2/3. And the reason why I chose thirds is because when you have to subtract or you have to add, your denominators need to be the same. So I chose that denominator so that it would be easier for me. The next thing you should do is you could rewrite this problem vertically. So 2 and 3/3 minus 1 and 2/3, up and down, it's a lot easier to do the math. Now we're going to subtract our whole numbers first, and then our fractions. So when you subtract 2 and 1, you're going to get 1. And when you subtract your fractions, remember, you only subtract the numerators and you just simply move over the denominator. So 3 minus 2 is 1, and you're going to put it over the 3. So that's 1/3. And your final answer is 1 and 1/3. Moving on to problem number 2. Here's an addition problem where we're going to add the mixed number to that whole number. So remember, the first thing that you do when you add these is you add the whole numbers first. So add 2 and 3, and you get 5. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to bring down the fraction. So bring that 3/10 right next to the 5, and your final answer is going to be 5 and 3/10. Let's move on to problem number 3. For problem number 3, we need to subtract 2 minus 1 and 3/8. So when we're doing this, we're going to need to change that 2 so that it is a mixed number. So remember, we're going to regroup that 2 so it turns into a 1, and we're going to look at the denominator in the next part of the problem, which is 8, and we're going to use that to create a whole number. So it's going to say 1 and 8/8. And remember, 1 and 8/8 is just another way to say the whole number 2. We're going to subtract 1 and 3/8. And the reason why I chose 8 is because you know that you need to have common denominators when you subtract. Go ahead and rewrite this vertically. 1 and 8/8 minus 1 and 3/8. Go ahead and subtract those whole numbers first. 1 minus 1 is going to give you 0. 8 minus 3, which is the next part, which is our fraction, you're going to get 5. Your final answer is actually going to be 5/8. You don't need to say 0 and 5/8, but if you do, it's okay, but it's 5/8. Problem number 4, we're going to be adding these two up. I noticed that both of my denominators are the same, so now all I need to do is rewrite it vertically. 5 and 2/5 plus 2 and 3/5. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the whole numbers first. 5 plus 2 gives me 7. And then when I add my 2 and 3, I get 5/5. So my answer is going to be 7 and 5/5. What I noticed about 7 and 5/5 is 7 is wholes, and 5/5 is a whole. So 7 wholes plus 1 whole is 8 wholes. So 7 and 5/5 actually equals 8. For problem number 5, I'm going to be subtracting 7 minus 5 and 2/3. First thing we're going to do is we're going to change that 7 to a mixed number. So it's going to be 6 and 3/3. Now that I have 6 and 3/3, which actually just represents 7, I'm going to bring down that 5 and 2/3. I'm going to go ahead and write them vertically, 6 and 3/3 minus 5 and 2/3, and then I'm going to subtract my whole numbers first. 6 minus 5 gives me 1, and then I'm going to subtract my fractions. 3 minus 2 gives me 1, and I'm going to bring over that 3, so my final answer is 1 1/3. Now it's your turn to complete your problem set and the application problem independently. Please complete both and send me a picture. You can text me, you can email me, you can send it through Remind, you can send it through the Google Classroom, but you got to send it to me to get credit for the lesson. I can't wait to see your work, and I can't wait to see you again. Bye, boys.